Hi students, this is Dr. Cindy and I'd like to talk to you about today's week 3 assignment. So for today you are going to be working on conducting an intake, which is the intake tool that is assigned to, or that is uploaded to Blackboard. Now let me get that up for you so you can see that. So here's the intake tool assignment, and this form when you open it on your computer, it's pretty extensive, a lot of fill in the blanks, and at the very end you'll have some information that you'll type in about the strengths of the person you're interviewing. Now I had one student say, I'm not in practicum, I don't have a client to interview, so who can I interview? So what you want to do is locate someone that you know, family or friend, that is willing to do this interview, and it needs to be genuine. Remember, you're going to change your names. You're not going to say they're related or that they're a friend, but someone who truly has some kind of a significant issue that's going on right now that you can do this intake with. Otherwise, it's not going to seem very genuine. Now, I want you to consider that there is some other information on this course Blackboard shell under interviewing and attending skills. Now, interviewing skills are how we respond to solicit information to complete the intake. So this would be, open versus closed questions, probes, reflections of feelings, things like that. Now, attending behaviors have a lot to do with nonverbal things that you do, such as nodding and saying mm-hmm and yes, and just encouraging them to talk. Paying attention to your body language, keeping your body language open, so you're not sitting with your arms crossed or your legs crossed. Focusing on the client, using good eye contact, things like that. So please review those interviewing and attending skills before you perform your intake. Now, let me explain a little bit difference between an intake and assessment. Most agencies have an intake form. Even doctors have that. Is what you fill out before you go in usually. The intake form is like the background information. Tell me about your family. Tell me about your, problem. Tell me, it's all the historical data. Now, we used to collect that in the office, but it would take an hour and a half to do it. And so, when a client comes in, they want to get right to the problem. So it is better to kind of differentiate what the real problem is by doing an assessment using the information that's collected on the intake form. So I've included down here on the assessment terminology and with definitions and assessment outline, I've included an example of what an assessment outline would include. This is just I think it's an outline form of what a biopsychosocial assessment would include. There's also some terminology here that I've included because a lot of the times when we are doing assessments, especially if you work in the medical field or with a psychiatrist, in a hospital setting, in a psychiatric setting, things like that, they will have terminology for like affect. That is how you appear. If you're talking with no affect, that's no smiling, no response to your face, that's considered a flat affect. But there's a ton of examples of terminology, and I'd like you to have that tool and keep it for yourself. Download it to your computer and keep it. You're going to find it very handy as you go through the program, and especially if you go into the master's program. I have also included 3 types of mental status evaluations and the mental status evaluation terminology. Mental status eval as MSE, and sometimes they call it a mini mental status evaluation. So I want you to look over that. Those are fun to practice. For instance, looking at short-term memory, you might ask the client to remember 3 things: book, bell, and table. So then you go on and you start asking other questions like count backwards from 100 by 7, who's the current president of the United States, things like that. And as you're, when you get to the end of that, you say, now I've mentioned 3 items previously. Can you remember what they were? Can you tell me what they were? In their bell, book, and table. So if they can't remember that, it doesn't always mean that there's a short-term memory problem. It could indicate that there's, you know, they may have some attention deficit issues or whatever. But, you know, it is just something to, you know, to consider as a small part of an overall mental status evaluation. So I want to talk a little bit about orientation. You can, it's called O times 4, oriented times 4. Oriented refers to a person's cognitive status or alertness. So what you want to do is ask them first to see if they're oriented to person is, you know, you ask, can you tell me your name? And then they say their name. So they're oriented to person. Then you ask, can you tell me where you are right now? What is this place? And if they can tell you where they're at, then they're oriented to place. Then you say, can you tell me today's date and what general time it is? So if they can say today is September 5th and it's around 11:30, then they're oriented to time. And then finally, situation. If they're oriented to situation, they understand why they are here. What brought you here today? Do you know why you're here? So those are orientations, and those are important to make sure that you have a client who is able to engage in the assessment process with you. All right, so that's all I have for today. Remember, your assignment link is for your intake form, which you can handwrite as long as it's legible, as long as I can read it, will be submitted to this intake assignment submission link here. So you upload it here and submit by midnight Sunday. All right, take care and try to stay safe in this weather. This is crazy weather, right? Bye.